Thank you very much, Michael, and welcome everybody to this panel on successful farming. Like Michael said, every year, and I've been very honored to be asked to chair this panel for the last several years. And believe me, it's, well, I'll put it this way, I take more away from this than I leave. It's always a really good panel, and this year's certainly not going to be an exception to that. Before I start, I want to make a couple of comments. Number one, I'm sure it's already been said, but I want to thank every one of you for your service. You know, it's not often we get to gather in a room full of people who've given a part of their lives in defense of our country. And this room's full of them. Every one of you are heroes, and I'm proud and I'm honored to stand among you. And so I say, again, thank you for your service. God bless you. Before I start, too, I want to mention a couple of people. Gary Madison has been the president of our board. He's the only national president of our board we've ever had. Gary's retired from Farm Credit, and he has done an amazing job as the leader of our board of directors. And I want to tell you real quickly, actually, how I got involved with Farmer Veterans Coalition. Several years ago, I was, as Michael said, I was state president of Missouri Farm Bureau, and I was on the American Farm Bureau board of directors. Gary's wife, Sabrina, was on the staff of American Farm Bureau. And Sabrina not only found out about Farmer Veterans Coalition, she just absolutely became enamored with what Farmer Veterans Coalition meant and what it was doing. And Sabrina literally drugged Farm Bureau into the circle. And Farm Bureau was one of the early sponsors and continues to be a sponsor today. And so I know we got a lot of people here from Texas. At the time, one of your Texas folks, Bob Stallman, was president of American Farm Bureau. And Bob called me and said, I think with your farming background and your military background, you'd be perfect to represent Farm Bureau on the board of Farmer Veterans Coalition. And I'm so thankful Bob called me and asked me to do it, and I'm really thankful that I did it because it's been a joy for me. And Gary, thank you for your great service. Let's give Gary a big hand. The other person I want to recognize is Michael. You know, every year at this conference, excuse me, it hasn't surprised me, but it's really impressed me how people gravitate to Michael. Because Michael truly is the heart and soul of Farmer Veterans Coalition. You know, Michael started the Farmer Veterans Coalition, put his own money in it in the early years, and he has done a phenomenal job, and I'm just always really pleased to just stand back and watch people. They want to talk to Michael, and I don't blame y'all. He's the guy to talk to. Michael, thank you so much for the great job you've done. Let's give Michael a big hand. We've got 4 panelists today. Actually, we've got a tag team here with Spence and Emily, and they're going to be great. I'm going to call them up one at a time, and they're going to come to the podium, and they're going to tell you a little bit about their military career. They're going to tell you then about what they're doing today in agriculture, and they'll take anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes, and we're going to try to save plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. So as we go through this, think of any questions you might want to ask. And our panelists will remain seated for the question and answer part of this. And but like I said, keep in mind any questions you might want to ask as we go through this. Our first panelist today is Marvin Frink from North Carolina. And we have a video. Marvin has a video that's currently being aired on PBS called the Soldier's Harvest. So before I call Marvin up, we're going to have the opportunity to see this video.
This is my agrotherapy. This is where I come at to heal for dealing with things like PTSD. My name is Marvin Frink from Red Springs, North Carolina. I was in the military for 15 years. I did 2 tours in Korea, 1 tour in Germany, and of course Afghanistan. It's kind of hard dealing with PTSD around a lot of people, but being around our animals like so helps us to reorganize ourselves to get back into common living again. Briarwood Cattle Farm is the name of the farm. So this farm has a long story behind it, but I'll make it short for you. My father saw that I was struggling with PTSD, and he wanted me to come home and come talk to him. I came home to find out that my dad had cancer. Upon him having cancer, he wanted me to go to his friend's house that had beef cattle and to go out and hang out and help him out, which he too was a veteran that needed help at the same time. So that was my dad's way of me communicating with someone that can understand me as well. I went over to his house and helped him out, fell in love with livestock that same day. When I fell in love with the livestock, I came back home that day and started talking to my dad about it. And that was the day I seen my dad smile. I saw my dad smile in a way he was very happy that I fell in love with something again. This is my best friend. I raised him from a calf. This is my first bull born out here, my very first bull, and it's like he understands me. So his name is number 7. I named him after my dad's pickup truck. I could talk to him and tell them my story, tell them the things that's going on with me, tell them how my day was. They listen, but at the same time, they don't judge me for what I've went through, brother. They don't do that. Yeah, they don't judge me. And that's the part that feels good about raising livestock. That's the part that gives me the sense of purpose to wake up.
Marvin is from North Carolina. He served in the United States Army, and at this time, Marvin Frink.
How's everybody doing? You know, it's one main thing in that story I want you to hear was the very last words that I said in there. It gives me a sense of purpose to want to wake up every day. I hope if you caught anything from me, it's that point where it says it gives me the sense of purpose. That's what farming does for me. Can you guys hear me? That's what farming does for me. It gave me a sense of purpose. My dad saw that I was struggling, came back off deployment, and man, I wasn't there. I was emotionally unavailable. I wasn't there for anything, anybody. I just wanted to be back in the fight. I wanted to go back over. You guys understand that. And that's where I felt I belonged. But truly, I was crying out for help, but my father saw how I can get help in a way that was a right now fix. Just like anybody else, I was that guy with that Glock in my hand. I was that guy. I almost did it, yes. But my father saw it was more in me. And that portion of being in me is what I'm giving you right now. And that's what gives me the sense to wake up every day. I fell back in love with myself. I learned how to smile. I still struggle. Yes, I still struggle. But I've learned to talk about it. I've learned to be genuine with myself now and to get rid of the poser. It's very easy to pretend as if things are not hurting or if it's not something going on in my life. I've learned now to turn to my wife and says, baby, I'm hurting. I need help with this. I need help with that. And that's it. So my wife is now my new CSM. So if you understand that, you know what I mean, you know. Reaching out for help and being honest with ourselves. I found 3 words, guys, that can hopefully help you out the same way it did me. Being a leader is 3 words that we hate in the military. That's no, denial, and rejection. We hate those 3 words because as leaders, we're always told to seek the yes. And there is no program getting out of the military or any transitioning unit or any outfit that I've seen and even checked out of how to help soldiers before you get to ag, of how to deal with that word no. No one has addressed that yet. So I'm hearing a lot of nonprofits in here. If you can help the God to identify the word no, because you got some serious leaders in here, some guys that's used to doing things. And that word no, denial, and rejection is something we don't understand. Our face balls up and we, get the brow going down because we're always taught to seek the yes. So the next question I've learned how to do is, so how can I? So now that's seeking information now. Getting into farming is very hard, guys. It's something that we love to do. We love to be outside, yes. But it's like getting into a fraternity. It's like, God Almighty, you could find a mentor, but it's hard to find someone to mentor you in your program because that's that farmer's business. And they actually don't want to give you their business plan. So YouTube became my best friend, just like I'm sure a lot of people in here now. We're forever seeking that information, and we have hungry minds. For me to sit down at night, God Almighty, that's hard to do. I'm first thing up in the morning, I'm waking that rooster up to wake the sun up because I can't wait to finish the next project today. And then when it's time to go to bed, that's where depression kicks in at, guys, because we want to continue doing something else from the day or the day before. And if you could relate to that, I challenge you to identify the word no, denial, and rejection, and don't allow that to deplete you. Actually use that to catapult you guys. Use that word to give you that more push for what you're looking for. So now let's talk small business now. So why do I choose cattle? Cattle for me is rough around the edges, same way that I'm used to the guys in the team rooms. You know how that is. Cattle is something that's not going to be nice to you. Cattle is going to be hard-headed. Calves are going to be they're going to test your fence line. It gives you something to do because the key to PTSD is in our hands. Right here, guys. It gives us something to do every day. As long as I'm doing something with my hand, that's the key to it. We can control ourselves from that point, and we can talk and we can, communicate better. Those are some of the things that help out, and cattle definitely apply those standards every day. So I've learned about cattle. I've learned a little bit about it, and I found out about the Farmers Veteran Coalition through a very good friend of mine, Chef Matthew Rayford, if you guys know him, out of Georgia, world-renowned chef, actually my old platoon sergeant. He got out of the military before deployment and said, hey, I'm done. It's actually Althea's brother, the one who you met up here yesterday, is actually her brother. So it's a small world of how the circle comes back around again. So he got me back into it and introduced me to the Farmers Veteran Coalition. And that's how I started finding more information. I got kind of bored with information at my local extension because they're still on VHS and, you know what I mean? There's things that's way out of pocket right now. It's like, how am I gonna learn? I don't even have a VHS player, a VCR player, guys. So we need something that's gonna give us that motivation. So the next thing is YouTube. And that's where we come in at. That's where your farm and your outfit here in Texas come in at. It can show me how to do different things. And that's how we could teach each other because we understand our lingo with each other. A lot of people don't understand that we actually need a communication level between legislation and actual lingo because we don't understand all the jive. We want to get right to the point. Give me that mission of what I need to do with it and I can get it from that point. And then from there, we reverse it backwards. I really wish a lot of the guys that's actually writing these programs come down to the local farms, come down and come see you. There's a lot of people using our disability for their business, and that's not their business for what I've been through. Stop making money off of me and what I've been through. Come down, come see me. Come down, come see you. That's the kind of stuff that we need, and you can get a whole lot more out of these ag programs, Now, I want to back up to something. Successful farming. Those were the keys, guys, I just gave you. That's my business plan. Falling back in love with myself. Learning who I am, learning who my teammates are, learning who I can call and talk to in the middle of the night because our friendship doesn't have hands on it. They don't understand us. We don't smile a lot because we take everything seriously. There's hardly any humor in us because that's all that we know. There's no time for joking. There's a lot of sayings said there's a lot of truth in a joke, Damn, we want to find out how can we make things happen. That's what we're bred on. So I basically took that whole program, what I just told you guys, and put it into our cow-calf operation. All I took was my team book, put it together. That's my continuity book. I took my my notepad, my leadership book, and just switched it all over and took military off of it and then put Briarwood Cattle Farm on it. My continuity book, all I did was just of it for my soldiers. I just reframed it and then put it into a way that the lowest guy on our farm can know what to do with that when I'm not there. A continuity book, guys. Don't reinvent the wheel. Use the same thing that you have now, what you've been taught all those years. That's where our fight is at, trying to find that information, and we already have it. You are those great leaders. You know, so when it came down to our beef, by taking that, I was teaching guys how to handle cattle by reaching out to our local schools. 90% of the schools don't have a place to come. So we got with, in my case, NC State, North Carolina A&T, they brought their young veterinary programs out to our farm to help us calve, to help us start steering our calves, you know, so forth, rearing them, whatever it may be, because these young vets need a place to go. Now, that's a handshake deal for both of us. The word of the day is resources. Let's get back into bartering again. Let's get into fair change of knowing if you have something, how could we exchange it, because a dollar is expensive and I need to put food on the table. You know, so those are the concepts. If we could just, those basic programs, that's my business plan for a successful farmer. And as one last thing on the beef side of it, we're not interested, me and my wife are not interested in selling large. I'm interested in selling to small families consistently. That's the word of the day for me and my wife. Being consistent at one thing, selling that repeatedly, and then keeping it going. So hamburger is our specialty. We love selling ground beef. Ground beef, the average family, you have more husband and wife here that are both in the military, might be in college still, and still have some youngins. I can't sell them some filet mignon or sell them a big roast. You know, I can, they could put in a slow cooker, but 9 times out of 10, a quick meal is what they're looking for, and ground beef could do that. So whatever you do, guys, do it consistently. Look out for the resources. And if it's implements or tractors, that's a problem right now, which I just ran into that recently, guys. Believe it or not, I'm finding more equipment in the salvage junkyards. Go to your salvage junkyards, you'll find all the implements you need. And it's in North Carolina, it's 25 cents a pound right now for metal. So you think about that versus that implement that you need. I just did it. My hand still got paint on it right now from just restoring the tractor right before I got here the night before. So we took a 4 or 5,000 and rebuilt that thing. And it came from a farmer who couldn't farm anymore, and we're dedicating it back to him. So guys, you could do it. Don't let the negativity of what you can't do. Connect with each other the same way we do on teams. Connect with each other the same way you do with your neighbor next door. And just learn to talk with each other. If it's hard, like me, I deal with anxiety a lot. If it's hard to deal with somebody or to honestly be there, don't stand directly in front of them. We don't like that anyway, to be honest with you. Stand off to the side of them and just hear what they have to say in the ad lib, and you can hear what you're saying. We're multitaskers. We're not ignoring the person in front of us. We're just multitaskers. And use those same skills to communicate the best way you can. If you can do it, do it. If you can't do it, say no, guys. You just simply can't do it. That'll take a lot of stress off of you. My name is Marvin Frank. Thank you.
Thank you, Marvin. A lot of great points Marvin made. Our next panelist is from the state of Maryland, Justin Garrity. Justin was in the U.S. Army and is now in the National Guard. And he's involved in the compost industry. And you might have read in your program, Justin is pretty much considered the best looking compost guy in the state of Maryland. I don't know who gave him that title, but sounds good. Let's welcome Justin to the podium.
You never know what they'll print, right? So might as well try, you know? Say it enough times, it becomes truth, right? All right, I'm gonna set a timer so I don't go too long, and nothing worse than being that guy on the panel. I don't want to take time from everybody else, because let me set my timer here. real quick, I appreciate the opportunity to talk. I told my wife I was invited to speak on a panel about successful farmers, and her first thing out of her mouth was, "Really?" So that ego boost lasted about 2 seconds, and it was right back to humility for me. That's about where I should be, so that's fine. That's why I married her. So I did 5 years active duty in the Army as a combat engineer officer, and then I did 5 years in the Guard. So no longer a member of the National Guard, but it was fun while it lasted. It was fun being a combat engineer. For anybody who did that, that was what I wanted to do. I went to school for computers, then I went in the Army to blow shit up. So I appreciate the opportunity. We were full service, construction and demolition. So if you got a problem, we're gonna fix it. And I did counter IED in Iraq right before I got out. And I always tell people I'm pretty good at composting, but I was really good at IED stuff. And I'll always be better at that than I will at composting. But not a lot of IEDs in Maryland. So when I got home, I didn't have a job. And so 6 months after I got home from Iraq, I left Iraq, had a Bronze Star, and 6 months later, they issued me an unemployment card from the state of Pennsylvania where I was living at the time. And that was probably the lowest point of my life. I still have that thing in my dresser drawer to remind me. There's nothing more humiliating than if you ever had to, for me, to have to go and do that. I never told anybody that I was friends with or my family that I was on unemployment. And it sucked. I didn't call it in every week. I'd call like every third week just to get enough money to pay the bills and stuff because I kind of was embarrassed to call in and do that. But, you can be pissed off and you can be sad and all that stuff, and I can drink and all that, but then that can only go on for so long. And so I said, well, at the time I'm in my 20s, I'm not gonna let that be the end of me, so let's see what we're gonna do. So I've always been into sustainability, and like I said when I talked yesterday, I'm into saving the planet, but I drive an F-150 and I eat steak, so I like hearing about cattle. So I'm into the planet to a point. But what I have really liked is when you look at waste and recycling, that kind of makes sense. And if you look at any chart in the country about waste, 2/3 of what's in the back of every trash truck in America is compostable. So it's wood waste, paper waste, yard debris, food scraps. It's material that we're just chucking in the ground or we're burning. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And there's a huge demand for compost and soil amendments. So I kind of zeroed in on that, and at the time, it's kind of the Wild West. There's not a lot of rules. And so I just Googled everything I could find on composting, and I'd read an article and just call someone and be like, hey, can I ask you some questions? And a surprising number of people said, okay, sure. Hey, you got a compost site, can I come by? Sure. And so I just went around and started pouring all my energy into learning everything I could. This was back in 2009 during the economy collapsing, and no one would rent me land. Hey, I get it, I've never run a business before, I don't come from a waste background, I don't come from a farm background. And when I went to people, I thought they'll rent me land because the economy sucks. But people, when I went to them and I said, hey, I want to rent some land, I want to bring in tons of food scraps and other waste, and I want to turn into soil, no one wanted me to do that on their land. So I found a farm for lease on Craigslist. And at the end of the day, Craigslist has been my best help in this whole damn thing, because that's where I found my tractor that I first bought. That's where I found my first trailer. So shout out to the folks at Craigslist for making it happen. But when I opened, I was third in the state of Maryland. I was the third guy with a permit. So that's pretty cool. You show up at the Olympics and just get in the blocks, boom, bronze medal. So I like those odds. I might win that race. The other two guys, they lost their permit within the first year that I was in business. So for most of the last 9 years, I've been the only guy in the great state of Maryland permitted to compost food scraps. So that would sound like an impressive monopoly, but it's been a hard fight to get there. And I'm not gonna go toe to toe for people with hard luck stories, because I've listened to people the last 2 days, and there are people that have been scrapping a lot more than I have. But what I will say is that whatever you got going on, it's just an obstacle to overcome. So in my case, the first 6 months, I signed a lease on the farm in July of 2010. I had a business plan that said I was gonna be a rich man. And in the first 6 months I was in business, we made $350. And that's not profit, that's total revenue at $350. So if I'd bought scratch-off tickets, I'd be more ahead than running that effing farm. So I ended up finding a job, and so I worked at night as the night desk clerk at a local Holiday Inn. And so the people there were like, well, you were in the Army, so we'll fire the security guard to save money, so you can be the security guard and run the hotel at night. So I'm by myself on the side of the interstate running a hotel at night for 8 hours a night. But what they didn't do is they didn't watch the cameras, because in the middle of the night, I was doing all the business work for my business at the farm, trying to do all my research. And if you were one of my customers, you got an email at 4 o'clock in the morning, because that's when I did all the stuff on the computer. And then I'd leave the hotel, I'd go work on the farm all day. Then I'd drive to school 2 hours away in the evenings because I was trying to get a degree. And then I'd come back to the hotel and work at night. So I would sleep in my car like some sort of hobo transient, and then on the weekend do guard duty. So, there's that thing in the Army creed about I will never quit, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna quit and lose at this thing. So that's been my motto the whole time, is we're just gonna make it happen. So anyway, boo-hoo, poor me, so we're gonna keep going. The one thing I'll say is when it comes to customers and then being in the military and being dedicated to things is you get a lot of credit in business for just answering the phone, being polite, and showing up. So the first customer I got was a restaurant, and they said, we are composting with another company, but they don't show up on a regular basis, and we're kind of fed up with those guys. I said, I'll be there tomorrow to pay a visit. It was snowing in Maryland. It was snowed 2 inches, which in Maryland is the equivalent of 2 feet. I mean, that like shuts the place down. So I drove the hour down there. I left early, made sure I got there on time, and they were blown away. They said, we didn't think you were gonna make it. I said, I thought that was the problem, people not showing up. And on the spot, without knowing who I was or asking any questions, we shook a hand, and that was my first customer. So there's a lot to be said about going around and just doing the right thing. You'd be surprised how many customers you find. And from there, we've grown. We fast forward a little bit. It was the me show. When it was just me, I always talked in the collective we, like, oh, we're working really hard at our facility, and oh yeah, we're really expanding. You know what? Don't be afraid to sound sad. If people know you're a one-person or two-person show, just be honest about it. There's nothing wrong with that. And the more we are honest with our customers and who we work with about, hey, we are who we are, we've done better because of that. So now we're pretty honest. But we've grown. We have 25 full-time employees now. 15 of those are veterans. We pour a lot of energy into hiring veterans and family members of veterans. The other 10 are family members of veterans. I was down into depths, so my goal was to bring everybody up with me. So what we do is we go out and find people. We hire people out of homeless programs. We hire people out of shelters, people that are down the depths, and we bring them along with us. So that's kind of been the thing that I enjoy the most, is that as we grow, we're growing and we're finding more folks. This year we added dental insurance for all our folks. All our guys have bad teeth. Well, you know what? Now everybody gets their teeth fixed. And guys don't have $1 in the bank for retirement, so we got a 401k match. So everything that we do to grow the business, we try to give it back to the team. I got 2 minutes and 46 seconds left. Real quick about the business. So what we do, if you don't understand, the company's called Veteran Compost. I hire veterans and we do composting. Not a marketing genius, we're very literal. So we've grown from, just like I said, that first customer. We now have 1,500 customers in DC, homes, offices, and small businesses where we collect. So if you own a condo or a little office building in DC, we show up in our vans with little 7 and 14-gallon buckets, and our drivers swap them out. It's crazy how many people sign up. We go on these weird streaks, and we have all these people we could name drop. I'm not gonna do that like Google or Facebook or whoever, but we've grown from there. And then in Baltimore, we do larger businesses. We do hospitals, we do grocery stores, we do the Ravens Stadium. I'm an Eagles fan, so they don't really do anything for me, but they're nice guys up there. So all told, between our 2 facilities, we lease space at a farm in Fairfax, Virginia, and Aberdeen. We compost about 20 to 25 tons a day of food waste, and then all the wood chip and other debris that gets mixed in with that. So all that stuff makes a really nice, clean compost, and that's what we focus on. We focus on quality compost because people want to pay for that nice, good stuff, and that's where we make our profit. The collection business is a very thin margin, but the compost is where I earn my living and pay my mortgage. And so what we've always learned is if we focus on making a good product, we never have problems selling it. And so the compost that we sell, the town we're in, they give away compost for free, and the county landfill gives away compost for $5 a pickup truck load. We charge $35 a cubic yard, and we run out. So whatever you're doing and whatever specialty you're in, if you just focus on being really good and making a good product, that stuff's gonna sell itself. I don't answer the phone. I've learned that I hate to talk on the phone. So if you call me, that order ain't happening. You gotta email me. So, we turn away business because I'm a bad business person. It still works out. So we do that because we work on making good compost. So if you're selling meat or you're growing vegetables, just be the best at what you do, and everything else in your farm is gonna fall in line, and everything else financially is gonna work out. So that's what I got there. And then, the one thing I'll say is it's tough. It's tough doing all this stuff, but if you think back to your military time, I was never on a mission where we weren't short people, time, or resources. You're always gonna be missing something. It's never all gonna line up. So just see that as something you gotta fight through. And if you fight through it, there aren't a lot of other people that are willing to do the work, right? A lot of other people will look at farming and they'll say, that looks really cool. And you'll see them wearing the cool shirts out here in Austin on 6th Street. But not a lot of those people are willing to actually get out there and do it. So if you're willing to fight through all that stuff and you focus on doing it the right way, I don't know, you'll probably do better than I am, so. Yeah. All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you, Justin. Good job. Let me introduce our next panelists, and then we're going to see a video about them. But I want to tell you who they are before we see the video. Spence and Emily Pennington are from our host state, Texas. Spence served 12 years of active duty in the U.S. Air Force, and now he is in the Air Force Reserves and commands a unit that, among other things, maintains the C-5 aircraft. And I told Spence, I always thought a 747 wasn't supposed to fly until I saw a C-5, and then I knew a C-5 wasn't supposed to fly, but they do. It's amazing. Spence's wife, Emily, is also, she's a U.S. Air Force reservist, and she's currently assigned to Scott Air Force Base, just over the river from St. Louis, about 2 hours from where I live. And Emily and I were talking a while ago. The pastor of the church that I belong to in our little town of Dexter, Missouri, is a chaplain at Scott Air Force Base. And Emily immediately looked him up, so I hope he won't tell you any bad things about me, Emily. Spence and Emily are involved in a lot of organizations and activities. Texas Farm Bureau has prepared a video about them, and so at this time, we're going to enjoy the video prepared by Texas Farm Bureau about Spence and Emily.
So when I was young, it was instilled in me that people should do something bigger than themselves and serve others. The military was a great avenue to get out of Raymondville, Texas for a little while, travel the world, meet new people, get an education, and to be able to come back and make my community better. My name is Spence Pennington. I farm with my dad, my mom, my wife, and my brother and sister. We live in Raymondville, Texas, and farm in Willacy, Cameron, Hidalgo counties. We grow cotton, sugarcane, grain sorghum, corn, sesame seed, and Brangus cattle. Our family came to Texas from Mississippi in 1923, and we've always farmed in this area, and it's the best feeling in the world to get to wake up and work with your family every day. When I was in high school, I decided I wanted to join the military, but I knew I wanted to farm. I served 12 years on active duty, and I'm in my 5th year as an Air Force reservist. My wife is also a reservist. She's a partner in the farm. We were both in the military, so we both understand that life. And then my wife actually grew up on a farm in Iowa. We kind of speak the same language when it comes to you're always on the farm or you're always in the military, and we make it work. Without a doubt, being in the military has made me a better farmer. It's made me more calculated. It's given me the ability to plan. It definitely made me a better leader of people. It gave me those life skills to take on any challenge, no matter what it was. So the military and farming have a lot of parallels. You have to be a risk taker and a gambler, the multitasking and planning, and you can't be afraid of hard work. Every morning I wake up excited to go to work. I think part of that is neither of those walks of life are a job. They were both a way of life. Farming's a way of life, and anybody that's in the military will tell you that's not a job, it's a way of life. Part of being in the military was getting to see the world. I've been to 35 countries, and so I got to be involved in agriculture in every country I went to. There's always something around the world that'll bring you back home. In Iraq, they grew cotton. When I lived in Germany, I used to get my milk from the dairy right down the street from my house. Whether it was growing tropical fruit or growing the same crops that we grow here, there's always something to learn about how people grow food and fiber to feed the world. Between 1% and 3% of Americans have been in the military, and probably only 1 or 2% are farmers. I'm in a pretty elite group, and I don't take that lightly. Not everybody gets to do what I get to do. I'm truly blessed to know that I'm taking part in protecting and feeding the world.
Great video. Help me welcome Spence and Emily Pennington.
I didn't say all that stuff. I think Farm Bureau just had me say a bunch of words and they put it all together. And that's what they came up with. I don't mind telling you I get choked up watching that. So I'm the only thing standing, well, there's one more guy standing between y'all and the bar, so we're gonna make this really quick. We farm south of here about 300 miles on the Texas-Mexico border near Brownsville and South Padre Island. Most people have heard of South Padre Island if you're in college. Our farm, as you heard, grows 6 different crops, both dryland and irrigated, and our cotton farm is a certified sustainable cotton operation. And the county that we live in is actually the second poorest community or county in the entire United States. So we have some really unique challenges down there. My story begins after high school. I went to Texas A&M, and had to pause for that. Did y'all catch that? And as you heard, got my commission as an aircraft maintenance officer. But my story coming back to the farm, besides coming back for harvest and planting every year on my 30 days of leave, was the military was downsizing, as y'all remember, in about 13 or 14, and they had this cool thing called the Voluntary Separation Program, where they'd pay you to get out. And so I got out, and I took the money and ran, and I retired a chief master sergeant a couple weeks ago at my reserve unit, and he said there's no such thing as luck. Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. And so all the timing lined up for me, and there was an 82-year-old farmer. He had about 4,000 acres and a bunch of junk equipment, and he asked if I would buy him out, and I was able to add that 4,000 acres to our operation. And so at 34 years old, I had 4 loans and found myself $1 million in debt. But I did sleep at night, surprisingly. Luckily, the first 2 years that I farmed, it rained, and down there, it's all about rain. If it rains, we make a crop. If it doesn't rain, it doesn't matter what kind of farming you're doing, you're not gonna make a crop. And we only irrigate about 20% of our farm. And that 4,000 acres had one field that was 40 acres that was irrigated, so I put it all in God's hands. But it rained those first 2 years, and my dad's a pretty good farmer, so he helped me. And we were able to pay off my loan in less than 3 years, to all 4 of the lending organizations. I still take out an operating loan every year, which most farmers do that. So don't be afraid to go into debt as long as you can pay it back. That's easy to say. But what's been so interesting here the last couple of days is no matter the size of your operation or what business you're in, we all have the same problems. Ronald Reagan said that agriculture was the only industry that buys everything at retail, sells everything at wholesale, and pays the freight both ways. And that is 100% true. So what I've taken is have an imperfect plan, because there's no perfect plan in agriculture. Things change. You're dependent on Mother Nature, and you're growing a crop, no matter what it is. And you don't have control over how it grows, and it's imperfect. It's not a polyester shirt that comes out of an extruder and that piece of fabric is perfect every time in my industry. Not all our sugar is as sweet as you would think it is, if you can believe that. There's all kinds of imperfections, so you can't have a perfect plan, but you do what we do in the military and you adapt and overcome. And then surround yourself by good people. You can't do it all yourself. We always hear that time is money, and it works both ways. Money is time. Those 4, I can tell you everything in that video, I don't own any of that. That piece of land, we're sharecroppers. The landlord gets 25% of the cotton off of that. Those 4 cotton pickers, well, one was broke down, but there's 4 cotton pickers in that picture. Those are $750,000 pieces of machinery a piece. We don't own any of those. We can't afford it. So the guy in that Ford pickup, which is now an $80,000 Ford pickup, he owns that too. So we literally own nothing but those 2 little girls that are in that picture. So, and 75% of the cotton that you saw out there, but the guy picking the cotton is going to take 14 cents of it. We can start counting that, and basically I don't own but about 20 cents per pound that's out there, and we're getting 65 cents per pound of cotton. So you can do the math, and we all have the same problems, right? access to markets, equality, access to good quality skilled labor, and our input costs continue to rise. I'm also a junk buyer. I bought $10,000 of junk, but I paid $475 for it last year. My dad said, "What are we gonna do with all that?" I said, "I just saved us 10 grand. So do the same thing that Marvin does. And then the last thing is work-life balance, which, no kidding, we still deal with that every day. So I'll give that to my wife to explain.
So when I was asked to do this, or voluntold, I was envisioning like a nice little intimate room and not like a big crowd of people. But my name's Emily. I always say I live in Raymondville, Texas, but I'm from Iowa. I'm a true Midwesterner at heart, and just so happened to meet a Texan. And so my history, family, military, all the way back to the Revolutionary War, and then I think everybody farmed, basically through up till about the 1900s. So I feel like it's just kind of a part of who you are, and thankfully my family has continued to farm. And again, bringing back Spence and I, it was true informed consent, I guess, if you grow up on a farm, marrying a farmer, and then even adding the military aspect on it. So the challenges, especially like he was touching on life-work balance, they're legit and they're true. But thankfully, for whatever reason, farming and the military, as crazy and as traumatic as they can be in some sense, they actually can be very grounding. And I guess when I think about, too, just carrying on his point, the life and work balance, it is about vision and knowing what you want to do. And I think of that verse where it says, "Those without vision will perish." And as you kind of step back from, if you're coming off active duty or coming from your military service and looking to what's ahead, kind of looking yourself in the mirror and finding what it is you want. And I think everybody here, you're going to be tested for it. And if you can know that, that'll carry you through the debt and the arguments with your spouses and juggling schedules and all of those things. And at the end of the day, you're doing something that I think it's innate, it's in your heart to farm. Like, I don't know how you guys can probably understand what I'm saying, but like there's something inside of you that just connects and it feels right. And if it feels right, do it. And I'm rambling because I don't know what else, how to take this, but tying it all in, because we're big farming, and so then there's also there's a lot of smaller scales, and it's interesting to see how people are approaching farming cathartically, like it enlivens them back, and I see the wear and tear end of it too, and it'll work out. And my grandpa always said, a farmer isn't worth anything until he's dead. So that's when you can really tell if you made a success, if at the end of the day you got something to pass on to your kids. And that was the other thing that I wrote down is legacy. So we come from a legacy of farmers, and some of you guys are building your legacy, and I just commend you, because it takes a lot of courage to put faith in this little thing that looks dead. You put it in the ground and pray to God that it rains, and then you have life. I mean, there's something beautiful about that, and you're building that to put a roof over your head, but you're also teaching your kids. And yeah, when we see our kids up there and I see that video, it chokes me up too, so I'm gonna stop.
Thank you, Spence and Emily. Great job. Our fourth panelist today is Endeavor Shin. Endeavor is from the state of California. He breaks the mold so far of our panelists. Endeavor was in the U.S. Navy. And, all right. And he owns and operates an orchard operation. So please help me welcome to the podium Endeavor Shin. Endeavor.
Okay. Good evening. I'm going to try to speed this up so we can all get into receptions and eating dinner. A little bit about how I started. I started this farming endeavor 3 years ago. Before that, I was a 10-year accounting. Before that, I was in the United States Navy for 4 years. I I joined the Navy after, quickly after September 11, thinking, my father was an officer in Taiwan, and I always wanted to be in the military. So that gave me a little push and oomph, and then I joined the military and did my 4 years. So quickly did my 10 years of accounting degree using the GI Bill, had 2 kids while going to night school. Before I started my farming career, I worked the farm. I was growing hydroponic basil, I was doing real estate, and I was working my full-time accounting job all at the same times. And I think one of the guys used to say he was working nights and doing his own work. My accounting job was fairly easy for me, so I was doing 3 jobs at the same time doing accounting. So after a year and a half, I was test growing on my balcony. I had LED lights. Everybody knock on my door and, hey, can I get some? I'm growing tomatoes. I'm growing basil. No, come up here. I'll show you. But after that, I found a really rundown greenhouse and, do some test growing, understanding the product. I was able to sell to pesto makers. So quickly we moved into I found another farm that I was renting on the whole bay, and the person that owns the farm that also has an orchid operation. I know nothing about orchids. I didn't know the roots from the spike to how to grow it, nothing. So anyway, once I had my operation set up for the hydroponic for the basil, the older gentleman wanted to retire. So I pray a lot, and I asked my wife, hey, you want to be a farmer? She's like, no, I want to stay home. She had I was a single source of income. We were making pretty good money. She used to stay at home. We take care of 2 kids. Now, 3 months ago, I have my 3rd kid. Okay, so after that, we were looking for friends to help us, and I guess I didn't find any good friends that would give me some money. Because I never ran a farm operation in my life before. I never ran a business before. So eventually, I was serving at church a lot, and there's a couple of people that believe in me, and I knew my numbers. I was looking at their books and trying to figure out the details. So I was able to convince someone to really purchase the whole operation. The operation was $1.7 million, and they believe in me to run the business. Well, so last 3 years, we're able to grow at least 30% every year. Now we're at $1.5 million in sales at the end of this year. This is including orchid and hydroponic operations. So it is difficult. When I started, the day I closed escrow to start a new business is October 31st, Halloween. The day I started, that whole month in San Diego is called San Diego. It never rains. Well, the month I started, it rained half of a month. And no sun means no flower, nothing. First month, I lost $20,000 right away. Second month, we had the box truck. We were on the highway going to LA, delivering 800 orchids to all these florists and wholesalers. The truck just destroyed the engine. The engine just got destroyed. And we tried to figure out how to transport all that orchids in those times. The third month, I remember my son had a misdiagnosed strep throat. So we were at the restaurant. He was literally peeing blood in front of us. And it was crazy. All that happened in the first 3 months of starting a new business. And I'm literally down on my knees then. I'm like, what? Is this the right decision? Do I still overstep it? And then also, the day of my farewell that I left my accounting job, somebody rear-ended me and totaled my car. So I'm just kind of giving, it is tough to start, but what's bad is not necessarily bad, what's good is not necessarily good. So when someone totaled my car, my old company actually gave me an SUV, and for like half the price. I mean, I can literally take it to CarMax, it's worth $8,000, they sold me it for like $3,000. This is a blessing in disguise because I used to have a Honda Accord, now I have a GMC Arcadia, I can deliver orchids. When the truck happens, it actually gave me a lesson because I wasn't as busy then, so it gives me time to know how to handle a situation like this. Oh, trust me, the truck didn't just broke down once. 3 years, it broke down 4 or 5 times. You know, I'm running that truck, it's almost 400,000 miles now. So it gave me time to learn. And I thank God for it. For all the issues that we encounter early, there's a blessing in there. Always look at a problem as a way to learn. I mean, improve yourself. It's very important. Don't look at a situation and try to avoid it or say, why did that happen to me? There's a lot of things that God puts in our life that is a purpose that we can learn. And try to think of that way. And I know we can grow in that. So I'm going to point out three main points. So I'm an accountant. So the first thing I'm going to let you guys know is know your numbers, okay? So I did my business plan. I showed the investor, and it's like, hey, we're going to make X amount of money because of all this history we have. Well, I'm an accountant for 10 years. I'm still dead wrong. You know, I showed them, hey, you're about to make this much. Don't worry about it. We can do this. It was all wrong. So if you already did your business plan or you're about to start farming, you have this beautiful number system, profit analysis, you're going to make X amount of money. My advice is to you, this is what the investor told me. These are investors that are very well known in the industry. One of them started as a locksmith, and now he's second largest lock company in the United States. Another one makes do all the OEM shoes for Nike. So they're very well educated in terms of investments. They told me this: if you're gonna think you're gonna make, $10,000, times that by 60%. So that means you're only gonna make $6,000. And that's a true number you need to have. So build your plan and start using this math. It works on me the first year. It truly is a magical number. When you think about your expenses, if you think it's gonna cost you $10,000, it's gonna cost you 1.4, so it's $14,000. So you build a variance both ways to protect yourself when things don't go the way you think it's gonna go. And in farming, it's gonna happen. It will happen. Even I'm just I'm writing an email, I'm coming to a conference, out of nowhere, a water tank leak, the whole thing will die. When the second year I started, I had no crops in February, March, and April. It literally cleared out my greenhouses because of infestation. So when we get into farming, do your test trials first before you really get into the bigger, larger. Don't borrow too much money if you don't know the crop yet. Ask a lot of advices. So that's knowing your numbers. Go to SBDC, small business, the elements. They have wealth of knowledge. They'll help you in your business plans. Go to Live Plan. I'm not advertising them, I don't get any money from them, but they're a really great way to build your business plan. It's very, very detailed. It really helps. The second thing I want to say is know your people. So in my operation right now, we went from 6 people to 10 people. Now we got to learn how to manage people. It's really it's different, and from military to civilian, you tell civilians like, hey, I need to fix that right now, and they like, okay, that's it. They don't go do it. You tell a military guy, I need that fixed right now, he's doing it right away, right? So you got to learn how to work with people. You got to learn how to manage people. People are your most important assets. Don't think that is a liability because you're paying them money. That is your asset. That works for you. That allows us to stand here right now because they're actually working for you. So it's very important. Think of people as your important asset. Take care of them. Know their needs. Make them feel important, but sincerely. Because they are important. Because they take care of your business. And that's how I allow you guys, people that are business owners, to travel, be here, doing conferences, learn different things, and expand our businesses. Relationship building. So as I see a group of room here, I don't see that many people last night at the bar. And I'm not saying to encourage you drinking, but I'm telling you, you gotta make friends, you gotta know people, you gotta talk to different people. Don't after this dinner, you go straight up to your room, sleep, watch TV, enjoy your day. That's not what we're here for. You need to talk to different people. You gotta stay there. I was up last night till 1 o'clock. I'm sorry, I did drink a little bit much, but you still have to talk to different people in order to build that relationship. Even in the business world, that's what you have to do. You gotta know people, you gotta talk to people, you gotta get their advices. And of course, always show up to your appointment. Don't dress like you're working on the farm. Dress really well. I showed up at Albertson and Bonds and Safeway before, a suit and tie with orchid trays and 2 orchid trays, and I'm sweating, but you gotta look up different, you know, you just gotta show up like that. Yeah, and it works, okay? This thing I just added on today, the video today during lunchtime really, sorry if I go over time, but it really touched my heart. Knowing your purpose. We're not just here to just farmers or, you know, able to make a living. We're here as a family where we want to help each other. You know, every one of us here is brothers and sisters. When we mentioned 2.9 pounds and full of honor, it really touched my heart. That I'm not here just to make money. I really wanted to make the money to help others. The reason it really touched my heart is when I came here to the United States, I was only 9 years old. I only spent 8 years with my parents. I used to sleep in restaurants. You know how you get the boneless thigh back in the day? I was cutting a chicken for $1.50 an hour. So by the age I was 12, I was basically living by myself and taking care of things. And it felt like I was an orphan because I didn't spend enough time. When the video mentioned, you know, you can't spend the time, the parents can't spend the time throwing baseballs and all that stuff, that really got me. So know your purpose in your business. Not just about money, it's about helping each other. This is a successful farmer veteran panel. Well, I'm not successful until I make every one of you or help every one of you become successful farmers. Because that's important to all of us. We're not just here just glowing what we did. We want to help. We want to be here, and you got questions, please feel free to ask. We'll all disclose our information. And then any business plan you guys need help on, we'd love to help you guys on. To grow that better. Family. We're family. Thank you.
Thank you, Endeavor. Well, let me say to all of our panelists, you have kept our record intact. Every year we have great panelists on this Successful Farmers panel, and you all kept that record intact in a big way. Thank you all so much. You did a great job, every one of you. I think we've got some people out in the audience that have been on this panel before. If you've been on the Successful Farmer panel before, please stand up and let us thank you all as well. I know we've got several people here that have been on it. All right, now we're going to have some time for questions. If you want to direct a question to a specific member of the panel, do that. If you just have a general question that you want to throw open to anybody on the panel, that's certainly fine too. We have some roving microphones. So if you want to ask a question, raise your hand or stand up and the microphone will come to you, and just state your name and your question. So here we go, right up here.
All right. Yeah, I'm John Kimbrough. You know me well here. My question is for Endeavor. You had mentioned 2 equations as far as your cost and your profit, and then you also mentioned a website about the business plans. What was that? What were those equations again? As far as let's start first with the cost.
Yeah. So if you're thinking you're making X amount of money, so let's say you're planning on making $10,000. You times that $10,000 by 0.6, basically that will give you $6,000. That's really what you truly will be earning. And then for the expense side, if you think it's going to cost you 10 grand, you times that by 1.4, so that would be $14,000. That's really going to cost you. That number, like I said, it has hit me. I don't want to hit me, but it hit me twice already. So.
And you also mentioned a website about the business plans?
Live, L-I-V-E, plan, P-L-A-N-E. You should be able to donate to Farmers Veteran Coalition. We need that $20,000.
Thank you.
All right. Who else has a question?
Hey, I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan. No debt. I don't know if anybody knows who Dave Ramsey is. I treat debt like the plague and just stay as far away from as I can. But it sounds like a lot of you took out loans to help you get started. What kind of pushed you toward that direction to take that leap of faith?
So I'm the guy that tells my buddy that's trying to start farming to quit listening to Dave Ramsey, because that guy's full of crap.
And I remind him, he's more of a personal finance guy. So
Yeah.
he's a little hard.
Yeah, so Dave Ramsey is personal finance. And he does start businesses, don't get me wrong, but we didn't think of it as debt. We thought of it as access to capital, which is nothing but a sexy way to say debt. But in ag, you can't do anything without access to capital, unfortunately. Our input costs go up every year. Land's not getting any cheaper. That's a great investment because they're not making any more of it. So we just saw it as an opportunity, and there was a lot of faith, that we were going to be able to pay it back. But we had some really good lenders. We had low interest rates. We actually borrowed from a bank. It was the guy that I had he was kind of he was the president of the bank, and he had some cows, and he didn't really know what he was doing. So he hired me as not even a summer job, an after-school job, because we had tractors and knowledge. I'd go over there, and I built his pastures and his irrigation system and everything, and so he had confidence in me. And like Endeavor said, we had the numbers. We had it figured out. And then the last thing was we have crop insurance, which when you're a row crop farmer, you have to have crop insurance. That's just the bottom line. If the government's going to control and regulate our safe, abundant food supply, then they have to be bought in too. And without crop insurance, there would not be food in America. Unfortunately, there wouldn't be food in the world. Most of our products get on a ship and go to Africa or Asia to feed livestock and people around the world. And so, I just took a leap of faith, honestly. I know that's a bad answer, but we had a business plan that a really good banker bought off on and said, you're going to be successful. If you're not, I'm going to take your crop insurance check. And I said, all right, we're in. So.
I was going to say for my debt, I've done debt twice. Once was John Deere. Those guys love to move equipment, and they offer really good rates. So like my John Deere dealer and I have a good relationship. I think we pay like 3% or something, and we buy used equipment because I like hearing stories about the junkyard. That's my talk later about good finds and deals. I like that. And then I tried to get a line of credit for years. Like it took me 18 months to break even, and I thought that would be the magic. I'll go to the bank where I bank and be like, check it out, I made a profit this month. And they were like, cool, we'll lend you $20,000 on a line of credit. You just need to throw $20,000 on a CD as collateral. And I was like, well, if I had $20,000, I'm like, wait, I kind of went to school. Maybe what am I not getting here? So there's something to be said for bootstrapping. I mean, that's generally what we've done. I am debt adverse as well, but then there's like opportunities for very affordable things, or in the case of equipment where I know it's pledged against a piece of equipment and it's at a very low rate. So it's just like a lot of things in farming, it's what's your risk and what are you comfortable doing. Don't do things that don't make you comfortable. But in our case, we've grown a little bit in what we're willing to risk for debt.
What is it, your name? So my case is a little different here, or cattle is a little different. So we bought all low-line cattle. You start out low-line in general, and then you start out just one bull. save money on this as well. It's very simple. You want to get the fancy stuff, but I didn't do it. I learned to listen. So my dad taught me a secret about cow. I want to share this with you guys here. Just whatever season that it's going to be in, if you were not taking care of that cow and that cow gets out for a year, what would that cow eat in that season? That's the byproduct you need to be feeding that cow. So cotton, say if you do a TMR, total mixed ration mix, think of cotton hulls. So we'll deal with our cotton guys and deal with cotton hulls that are doing M&M candies, white protein, which is your byproduct. So not the M&M candy with the peanuts in it, just the chocolate candy, add that into it as well, and your hay, of course. So different ways that you can come back the same, but start small.
When I started, I took out a micro loan for $50,000, and I spent it all. I only used $10,000 of that money to really start doing testing, understanding the activities. So when you started, I would literally, I would also advise not to carry on debt because you're doing a test run, you're trying to understand the market, you take your product, find your sales channel first before you take on debt. The reason we're talking about taking on debt is an opportunity there. That's why we take on debt. So you guys know I'm doing an expansion on my orchid operation. I have to take on $1 million worth of debt. Why would I do it? Because I know my numbers, because they're now actual numbers, because I have been doing business a couple of years. I know what my expenses are, my income opportunities are, do the proper calculation. And you can see if that makes sense to expand the operation or stay the same. For me, I know that if I continue to stay the same, because in California, the minimum wage is $15 an hour. To get anybody on salary, it's double the minimum wage. I have to figure out how to expand properly and then do more efficiency on my labor. So I need to increase. If 2 years ago I didn't increase on my debt or increase on my production, I would be bankrupt right now. So try to, before taking on debt, think of different things first before you expand. So if you maximize your production area, you do the best you can, and you're still getting the different customer bases, then take on debt. I mean, we know that USDA ownership loan is $600,000 now at, was it 3.5% for 40 years you can go up to. The operation loan, you can do a $400,000 at 2.75, which is 18 months. I understand there's a lot of money there, but if you do your P&L, your balance sheet, your cash flow, you understand that, debt is not something you should be afraid of. You need to use other people's money to make money. That's what bank does. They use your money to make more money, right? So don't worry about the numbers, but know your numbers. Be careful. I never talk about going to buy a brand new car or this and that, because that's not what you take on debt for. You take on debt to make more money.
Okay. Okay, I think we got time for a couple of more questions. I know we got one right here.
Okay, just real quickly, two of you are working on a niche market, and that would be Endeavor and Justin. It's kind of a niche market in a way. But my question is, what happens when there's competition? Because eventually, someone's going to see your model and go, hey, we can make money. Do you guys have that in your plan for what do you do when competition finally arrives, if you don't already have it?
I can go first then. So we do, if you Google composting in DC, there's other companies that collect. The frustrating thing, and you may see this in your commodity or farm, is that the other guys that collect, they put the word compost in their name, but they don't operate compost sites. It's always really hard to point out the other operators in your industry that aren't doing it the right way without coming across as bitter or tattletale. So it's always really a frustrating challenge for us is how do we tell our story that we're doing things the right way, that we went to this thing called the Army and we learned all these pesky rules about ethics and values and we try to follow them and our competitors don't. So it is a challenge, and I tell people that business is as cutthroat or more than the battlefield, so I mean you got to watch out. But We do expect that there'll be competition. I mean, anywhere in economics, the law of microeconomics is that the market will fill anywhere there's profitability. And so we just try to stand out, like I said, on quality and service. And so we sell on service and quality and not necessarily on price. We are price competitive, but that's what we just try to do, is differentiate ourselves on price and, on service and quality.
So just to answer your question, I don't have the niche market in my area. 3 miles away from me, the orchid grower grows 60,000 orchids a month. I grow 10,000 orchids that I'm able to sell per month. And half an hour away, there's another grower that grows 40,000 orchids a month. Up in California, around Salinas, there's an orchid grower that grows 300,000 orchids a month. There is competition in anything you do. There's always there. But what I strive on is quality, making sure that you have the best quality. And I know in this room, we got no problem doing that. We got the passion, we got the heart. You know, and then being able to be a commitment is one of the huge key when you deal with a larger customer. If you're gonna say you're gonna deliver it, you better deliver it. I don't care if it's fire in California, you just drive through there. You try to make sure that wherever you promise the customer, you deliver to them. And then always keep forefront, honesty is the best thing. When I was dealing with the corporate retail, we're talking about Albertson, Sabre, and Martins, look at how big they are. I mean, Southern California has 342 stores. If they take one box of orchid, which is 10 orchids every week, for each store is 3,400 plants easily, and they don't take one box per store. But they were willing to work with us because we care about our quality. We do what we said we are going to do. Because there's people out there that's always try to scam the system. So an orchid can be sold as an orchid for 4-inch, 5-inch, but you can change the pot. Now you tell them this is a 5-inch orchid, which is more valuable. But if you do it honestly, you do the right quality, you tell them what it is, you show them how to make money. There's people that's willing to listen and care about that.
Okay, we've got a question in the back. Go ahead.
Hi, Jeremy Huffman from Michigan. My question's for Marvin in regards to the operational controls that you have put in place so that you can have your employees help you and they're doing it to the standards that you want. Our farm, we're almost in the position next year where we're actually going to start bringing someone on. And that is something that I've actually never created before. And having ADD on the farm like I do, we've got so many different things going on that I feel like you've created your own books that you're using, but when I'm out in the field and I'm inspecting plants or something and in my high tunnels, I have to be able to put it down somewhere in some sort of central location. So the second part of the question first is, how did you go about creating those controls? I know you said you copied the leadership books that you brought from the Army and everything along those lines, but I'm going to be creating it from scratch. And then secondarily, have you found a way to digitize it so that you can have that at your fingertips when you're out in the field? Because that would be something that would be personally very valuable for me. Thank you.
Okay, so this is, I get this right here. So for the first portion of your question, I started out, I was doing the TBA. If you guys know that, and TBA stands for Threat Vulnerability Assessment. I started my security 5-10 miles away from my farm. I need to know who's around my area, what is around my area, what are some of the products that they want that's based on the farm, what are some of the needs, what are some of the drugs that are in the area. I need to know that, who's on drugs, who are some of the suppliers. Just think on that level what I'm saying to you, brother. Once I can drill down to know who's in that area, what's in that area, I can learn how to protect myself from the driveway forward. Now I know what I'm looking for. If that, guy that's coming into the driveway doesn't look right, I know what I'm looking at. I know he's from this side of town. I should get out and drive and ride around in a day, twice a day. First thing in the morning when to know when it's moving. And I move around in dark so I can see what's out there again, but at a certain time, to see what people see. I use shipping containers. I get a 40-foot shipping container. We paid, I think, $2,500 for a 40-foot container, and we put what's called a contractor's lock on the front of that box. That way, brother, we could put anything from our tractors inside of that, up to our vehicles, whatever it may be, we can lock it up and secure it a little bit better, brother. Digitizing the second portion, do I have that? Yes. I didn't take the time to do it. I've asked help from others to help me with that, but I'm more than glad to share it with you, brother.
Okay, I wish we had more time for questions, but folks, we're out of time. Let's give our panel a great big hand of thanks.